Jesus, ang siyang sa mundo'y tumubos. Langit at lupa, siya'y papurihan, araw at tala, siya'y parangalan. Ating pagdiwang pag-ibig ng Diyos sa tanan. Hallelujah! Halina't sumayaw, buong bayan, lukso sabay sigahan sa libutan. Pangalan niyang angking siningning ng bituin, liwanag ng Diyos sumahati. Langit at lupa, siya'y papurihan, araw at tala, siya'y parangalan. Ating pagdiwang pag-ibig ng Diyos sa tanan. Hallelujah! Mag-isigaw sa lahat, galingan niya'y wagas, kayong dukha sa lahat. Pag-ibig niya sa inyo ay tapat. Umayang ihayag, purihin siya, at ating ibunyag, awitan siya. Pagliligtas ng Diyos na sa krus ni Jesus, ang siyang sa mundo ay tumubos. Langit at lupa, siya'y papurihan, araw at tala, siya'y parangalan. Ating pagdiwang pag-ibig ng Diyos sa tanan. Hallelujah! Halina't sumayaw, buong bayan, lukso sabay sigahan. Ang ngalan niyang angking siningning ng bituin, liwanag ng Diyos sumahati. Langit at lupa, siya'y papurihan, siya'y parangalan. Ating pagdiwang pag-ibig ng Diyos sa tanan. Ating pagdiwang pag-ibig ng Diyos sa tanan. Ating pagdiwang pag-ibig ng Diyos sa tanan. Ang Diyos sa tanan. Ating pagdiwang pag-ibig ng Diyos sa tanan.
God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide, hold me closely to his side. With love and strength for each new day, he will make a way. He will make a way. Oh, God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide, hold me closely to his side. With love and strength for each new day, he will make a way. He will make a way. By a roadway in the wilderness, he'll lead me. Rivers in the desert will I see. Heaven and earth will fade, but his make a way. He will make a way. With love and strength for each new day, He will make a way. He will make a way.
Layuan ninyo ang mga Panginoong likha ng inyong sariling kaisipan. Halina at sambahin natin ang tunay na Diyos ng buhay at kasaysayan. Iniiwan natin ang ating mga pangamba at suliranin upang makasumpong ng kapahingahan sa presensya ng ating manlilikha. Talikdan natin ang ating pagkaalipin sa mga makamundong bagay upang magnilay sa katotohanang walang hanggan. Sa harap ng kamanghamanghang nilikha na ating nakikita, tayo ay nagtitipon upang pagnidayan ang mga katotohanang hindi natin nakikita. Huwag tayong matakot sapagkat ang Diyos ang ating tanggulan. Ang ating gantimpala ay tunay na kasaganaan. Tayo ay tinipon ng Diyos sa kaniyang pakikipagtipan katulad ng isang inahing agila na kinakalinga ang kaniyang mga anak sa lilim ng kaniyang mga pakpak.
Sing them over again to me, wonderful words of life. Let me more of their beauty see, wonderful words of life. Words of life and beauty, teach me faith and duty. Beautiful words, wonderful words, wonderful words of life. Beautiful words, wonderful words, wonderful words of life. Christ the Blessed One gives to all wonderful words of life. Sinner list to the loving call, wonderful words of life. Oh, so freely given, wooing us to heaven. Beautiful words, wonderful words, wonderful words of life. Beautiful words, wonderful words, wonderful words of life. Words of life and beauty, teach me faith and duty. Beautiful words, wonderful words, wonderful words of life. Beautiful words, wonderful words, wonderful words of life.
Tayo manalangin. Walang hanggang Diyos na nagkakaloob sa amin ng kapahingahan at nagbabangon sa amin sa isang bagong araw. Kami ay nagpapasalamat sa iyong mapagbantay na pagkalinga. Sa iyong pagtipon sa amin ngayon, ibinubukas namin ang aming mga sarili sa tanawing hangad mo para sa amin. Tulungan po ninyo kami na kasama ninyong magtatag ng isang pamayanang tumatanggap sa iyong mga propeta at tumutugon ng may pag-ibig sa lahat ng iyong mga anak. Samahan mo kami ngayon at pukawin ang aming puso tungo sa iyong kalooban. Gawin mo kaming isang tunay na iglesyang naglilingkod at sumusunod sa iyong nais. Amen. Kasabi ni Jesus ng mga ito, tumingala siya sa langit at kanyang sinabi, Ama, dumating na ang oras. Luwalhatiin mo ang iyong anak upang luwalhatiin kaniya. Sapagkat binigyan mo siya ng kapangyarihan sa lahat ng tao upang bigyan niya ng buhay na walang hanggan ang lahat ng ibinigay mo sa kanya. At ito ang buhay na walang hanggan, ang makilala kanila na iisang tunay na Diyos at si Jesucristo na iyong sinugo. Inihayag ko dito sa lupa ang iyong kaluwalhatian Natapos ko na ang pinapagawa mo sa akin. Kaya Ama, ipagkaloob mo sa akin ngayon sa iyong harapan ang kaluwalhatiang taglay ko sa piling mo bago palikhain ang sanlibutan. Ipinahayag ko na kung sino ka sa mga taong ibinigay mo sa akin mula sa sanlibutan. Sila'y iyo at ibinigay mo sila sa akin at tinupad nila ang iyong salita. Alam na nila ang lahat ng ibinigay mo sa akin ay mula sa iyo. Dahil ibinigay ko sa kanila ang mga salitang ibinigay mo sa akin at tinanggap nila. Natitiyak nilang ako'y tunay na galing sa iyo at naniniwala silang ikaw nga ang nagsugo sa akin. Idinadalangin ko sila, hindi ang sanlibutang ito ang idinadalangin ko, kundi ang lahat ng ibinigay mo sa akin sapagkat sila'y sa iyo. Ang lahat ng sa akin ay sa iyo, at ang lahat ng sa iyo ay sa akin, at naluluwalhati ako sa pamamagitan nila. At ngayon ako'y pupunta na sa iyo. Iniiwan ko na ang sanlibutan ito, ngunit sila ay nasa sanlibutan pa. Amang banal, ingatan mo po sila sa pamamagitan ng kapangyarihan ng iyong pangalan, ang pangalang ibinigay mo sa akin, upang kung paanong ikaw at ako ay iisa, gayon din naman sila ay maging isa. Pinagpala tayo ng Panginoon sa pagkabasa ng bahaging ito ng Ebanghelyo ni Juan.
By the hand and help me face the rising sun. Comfort me through all the pain that life may bring. There's no other hope that I can lean upon. Lead me, Lord, lead me on my life. Walk by me. Walk by me across the lonely road that I may face. Take my arms and let your hand show me the way. Show the way to live inside your heart. All my days, all my life. You are my Lord. Upon my feet all the time, my Lord, I need you there. You are my Lord. I cannot live alone. Let me stay by your guiding love all through my life. Lead me, I'd rather go along my way. Help me take the right direction. Take your road. Leave me, Lord, and never leave my side. All my days, all my life. You are my Lord. All the time, my Lord, I need you there. You are my Lord. I cannot live alone. Let me stay by your guiding love all through my life. You are my light. You're the lamp upon my feet. All the time, my Lord, I need you there.
In behalf of the officers of the Church and the Council of Bishops, let me extend to you the grace and peace of God as we celebrate this coming Monday, May 25, 2020, our Church's 72nd anniversary. We are celebrating this anniversary in a time of a pandemic. We are in a situation where everyone is encouraged to stay home to protect ourselves from this deadly virus. This pandemic has challenged the ways of which our faith communities were taught to live out our fellowships. That we are to gather for fellowship together, chit-chat or share coffee with one another before or after our services. That as a faith community, we welcome each other as sisters and brothers with a handshake or an embrace or a kiss. That we come to this fellowship to be in one table to share the Lord's Supper or share a pew with friends, relatives, or with people we have just met. Clearly, this pandemic has challenged us to thinking of a new normal for our coming together for fellowship every Sunday or in other services we are accustomed to. What can this new normal be? You see, 2 or maybe a year ago, when someone enters a bank to withdraw money and wear a mask, these people will be suspected to be doing something bad. Today, you cannot enter the bank without a mask. In fact, you will get arrested if you will not wear one. Is this the new normal? What then is the new normal as far as our community of faith is concerned? Maybe the new normal, our local churches will be discouraged to converse to each other before or after the worship for fear of transmitting the virus. Gone are the coffee times or the potluck lunches, and the choirs that used to be uplifting our spirits when singing the anthems and are discouraged in favor of solo or ensembles with a distance during our services. During the last 8 or so Sundays, our local churches were more creative in doing worship services, either virtually or in the homes. We celebrated the sacrament of the Lord's Supper separately as a community, when ironically, this sacrament is also known as communion, that will supposedly bring us together to one table with Jesus as our host. We may struggle to find our way in this new normal. As a community of faith, however, we celebrate our unity. We celebrate God's goodness and faithfulness because we feel that we will miss in thanking God for the many blessings He has showered our church, the United Church of Christ in the Philippines. Using the lectionary gospel reading this Sunday, let me invite you and let us discern God's message for us today. This story in John's Gospel is part of what scholars thought as Jesus' farewell discourses. These are conversations between the departing teacher and the anxious students. The disciples are the future of the church, and as such, Jesus speaks to them not as individuals, but as a gathered community of faith or a church. They are also an embattled and uncertain little church in need of reassurances and promises, and yet in need of a challenge too. This church is the community of faith that is not time-bound or limited to one little group of disciples. It can extend and include us, the generations after. Jesus ended these conversations with a farewell prayer in which he directs his speech not to his disciples but to God. There are 3 themes in this story that are present that I would like us also to be our themes as we celebrate this year's anniversary. And that is knowledge of God, glorification, and unity. Knowledge of God here means being in relationship with God and Christ. This is what John calls knowing. And in this story, it is available to the disciples in its entirety now. Jesus prayed in chapter 17, verse 6 and 7, I have made known your name to those whom you gave me from the world. They were yours, and you gave them to me, and they have kept your word. Now they know that everything you have given me is from you. In his gospel, John presents 4 great examples of discipleship. The Samaritan woman by the well in chapter 4, the man born blind in chapter 9, Mary who poured costly perfume in chapter 12, and Thomas of all people in chapter 20. What do they have in common? They participated in ongoing relationship and encounter with Jesus. Both the Samaritan woman and the blind guy have lengthy, increasingly deep dialogue with Jesus. And as they do, they understand Him more and more to the point where they know Him and understand that He is the source of their lives and loves them like no other. This leads them to worship Him and testify to others about Him. Mary, on the other hand, is described as one whom Jesus loved, together with her sister Martha and brother Lazarus, in chapter 11, verse 5. John makes it clear that they regularly spend time with Jesus. Thomas may be the less obvious hero, but he is a hero nonetheless in this gospel. He sticks with Jesus even though he deserves trouble is in store in chapter 11, verse 16. He asks questions which he does not understand in chapter 14, verse 5. He is not easily persuaded to believe or prone to flights of fancy, but is willing to believe when confronted with raw glory in chapter 20, verse 27. On the basis of all this, Thomas comes to fully know Jesus, such that he declares to him, saying, My Lord and my God. What deeper desire exists than to know and be truly known, understand and be truly understood, love and be truly loved? According to John, that is the meaning of life. This gospel specializes in doing language and loving language because they go together, though it might be contradictory to us. Because in our minds, we may assume the opposite. In fact, we take great pains to disallow true knowledge of ourselves, since we assume that the more someone knows the real us, the less love they will have for us. John will not countenance such notions. One cannot deeply love that which one does not know. And knowing depends upon authentic relationship and regular encounter with the beloved. Moving forward, as a church, our challenge is to move closer in our relationship with our God in Jesus Christ and in our relationship together as a community. This will assure us that we are not left alone. We are not orphans. We are Easter people. As Richard Borridge writes, that a church full of Easter people will be a place where grieving or searching souls can be comforted, encouraged, and strengthened because they sense God's presence and God's Spirit in our midst, inspiring and sustaining the life we share together, nourished for ministry in the world God loves. John's notion of God's glory is informed by the Old Testament, which speaks much about the glory of the Lord. As in many other places in John, Exodus looms large in the author's imagination. In Exodus chapter 14, verse 35, Moses was not able to enter the tent of meeting because the clouds settled upon it, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Here is the point. The glory of the Lord is God's presence. With every word that they can muster, the author of John pushes to intimacy. The incarnation, ministry, death, and resurrection, glory and love, all declares that God created this world for that single purpose, unity with all creation. As our statement of faith declares, persons are created in the image of God and destined to live in community with God, with other persons, and with all creation. Intimacy and unity. Jesus came to reveal that as God's sole intention, to model that unity, to complete that unity. Jesus glorified God by completing the works God sent him to do. The prayer in John is in contrast to Jesus' prayer in Gethsemane, as Mark tells the story in this same last night in Mark's Gospel. The grieved Jesus in Gethsemane would not mind passing on the cup he was about to drink. With Jesus, who sits at the table speaking glory in John's Gospel, he shared with God the Father from the beginning of time. That is because John is putting this prayer in the context not just of impending death, but of a bigger picture of Jesus' death, resurrection, and ascension, with plenty of glory for the little faith community to tap into. This prayer comes out of a very special and specific moment in the story of Jesus and what he is about. God's plan, and that includes willingly laying down his life. The baton gets passed in the same way, of course, from Jesus to us, the believers, who are expected to do greater works than him. Believers, you and I, glorify God when they reveal God's love to the world God created and so loved. Even as the world shows resistance here and there, or even hatred, no matter what, the job is done. Jesus has conquered the world, and we are to continue Jesus' work that has started. In unity, the community of the disciples will be strong and not broken. Jesus' prayer was an assurance to this small community of believers as they start to pursue the work Jesus entrusted now to them. This prayer assures them and us today that we are not left with the best of human possibilities, but with the very reality of God. The believers are unified with God, Christ, the Spirit, and with one another. Therefore, we are strong and equipped to do greater works than Jesus. The words we are hearing often today in our midst of being quarantined are, we are in this together and we are stronger together, or we heal as one. The Gospel of John tells us that the disciples then and us today are assured that even without Jesus physically being with them and us today, we can confront the complexities of human existence with the help of the gift of the reality of God. There is no reason we cannot just as effectively demonstrate and reveal God's love for everything in God's cosmos as Jesus did. This is an empowering word, to be sure. It is also a challenging word because we cannot pretend to be waiting for something God has yet to provide before we get on with the work at hand. To be sure, the road will be rough enough that Jesus feels the need to offer prayers for our protection as we go. We know then that we are in good hands. We have all we need to testify to God's love in ways that will bring abundant, eternal life to all creation. This is more than individual acts or momentary flights of spirituality. It is an extraordinary way of life that follows the way of Jesus. If we live and love as Jesus did, we will do so with clear consciences, with gentleness, with reverence. The love that comes to us through the Spirit will overflow into the lives of others. We will be agents of love, God's love in the world. Indeed, those who we encounter will sense that the Spirit animates our individual and our collective lives, or as the popular song goes, they will know we are Christians by our love. In closing, and as I said earlier, we are uniquely celebrating our church's anniversary not as a gathered community. How are we, a people, cannot gather together? At the center of the present global pandemic, of course, is the suffering of those who are most severely ill, the suffering of those who are dying, who are separated from the comforts of their families, and of those who care for them, that oftentimes without adequate protection, rest, compensation, or support. Those who are suffering from other illnesses, including mental illnesses, exacerbated by loneliness and anxiety. Those who cannot even hold funerals for their loved ones, let alone be with them at the end. In one way or another, we are sharing in an extraordinarily painful and challenging experience. And then there are those grievously affected by the economic toll, those who have lost their income, their security, their homes because of the recent typhoon. One of the concentric circles around that core of suffering is the harm done to our ability to gather, to be together, literally to congregate as one would expect congregations to do. The need to quarantine and self-isolate and self-distance by life-saving necessities overrides our natural human need and desire to come together, even though we are social beings by nature. As a church, we have a tie that binds us together, that brought us together by our foreparents of our faith 72 years ago. The faith that challenges us to be more closer to our God and accept God's work of salvation in the world. And that knowledge of God can bring us together in a united effort of doing God's mission of loving God with all our being and serving God's people. Let me invite you as we once again commit ourselves in declaring our life purpose as we declared in our BMG, in our UCCP BMG. We state, we, the members of the United Church of Christ in the Philippines, affirming our common faith, heritage, and mission mandate, centered and founded in the living Christ, cognizant of our diverse historical traditions and experiences, but sensitive to the problems and challenges of the contemporary society where we are located, do commit ourselves to the pursuit of the following life purposes: to be a caring, sharing faith community, learning and living out Jesus' example as a servant prophet to the people, to transform our life work as a community towards becoming a more effective witness to the church's vision, to be a faithful proclaimer of the gospel of shalom to and with the people, to work in solidarity with all other sectors and groups in society and with other faith communities who share our own vision of society, to continue to work for unity and reconciliation among our own people. We intend to live out these life purposes, drawing strength from the resources of our faith heritage, from the edifying traditions and lessons of our history as a church, from the stories of faith, hope, and struggle of the Filipino people, including the martyrs, and from the empowerment that can only come from the Holy Spirit. This is our prayer. Congratulations and happy celebration May God bless us all. Amen.
Ito ang panahon ng muling pagtatalaga ng ating mga buhay para sa layunin ng Diyos. Taligdan na natin ang mga paghihimutok at ang pagtutuon ng pansin sa mga bagay na wala sa atin upang makapagpasalamat tayo sa lahat ng ipinagkatiwala sa atin ng Diyos. Sa ating mga handog ay ibinabalik natin ang bahagi ng mga kaloob ng Diyos upang mabigyang kaganapan ang mga gawain na ipinababalikat niya sa ating iglesia.
When we walk with the Lord in the light of His Word, what a glory He sheds on our way. While we do His good will, He abides with us still, and with all who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Not a burden we bear, not a sorrow we share, but our toil He doth richly repay. Not a grief nor a loss, not a frown or a cross, but is blessed if we trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. What we never can prove, the delights of His love, until all on the altar we lay. For the favor He shows and the joy He bestows are for them who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Then in fellowship sweet we will sit at His feet, or we'll walk by His side in the way. What He says we will do, where He sends we will go. Never fear, only trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey.
Sa aming pagtatapos, aming Diyos, naway ang iyong nagpapatuloy na pagtanglaw at pangunguna ang masumpungan ng bawat isa. Naway ang mga tahanang nananambahan ay tunay mong pagpalain at lingapin, at ang iyong maliwanag na tanglaw ang siyang maranasan ng bawat isa. Naway iyo kaming puspusin ng iyong biyaya at habag, at masumpungan namin ang aming minimithing kagalingan para sa aming pamayanan. Amin ang maranasan ang pagbabalik sa normal ng aming buhay na ginambala ng pandemya na umiiral sa aming mundo. Iyong pangibabawin, O Diyos, ang iyong kapangyarihan para sa amin at sa aming pagdiriwang ng ika-72 taong anibersaryo ng Iglesyang UCCP. Kami ay sama-samang dumulog sa iyo na may pagtitiwala at labis na pananalig sa iyong hindi kumukupas na katapatan para sa amin. Igawad mo sa amin ngayon ang kasaganaan ng iyong pagpapala. Naway ating masumpungan ang habag at inspirasyon na nagmumula sa ating Panginoon. Ibigay niya sa atin ang mga biyaya at pagpapalang ating kinakailangan at igawad niya ang kanyang masaganang bendisyon sa pangalan ng Ama, Anak at Banal na Espiritu, ngayon at magpakailanman. Amen.